Hi everyone, my name is Bonifase Orwa, and today I want to take us through a very complicated challenge given by the hacker rank, and it's all about decoding a matrix script. So, this is the problem statement. Neo has a complex matrix script. The matrix script is a n by m grid of strings. It consists of alphanumeric characters, spaces, and symbols. This is example of the matrix script, and the coded matrix is given here. To decode the script, Neo needs to read each column and select only the alphanumeric characters and connect them. Neo reads the columns from top to bottom and start reading from the leftmost column. If the symbols or spaces between two alphanumeric characters of the decoded script, then Neo replaces them with a single space for better readability. Neo feels that there is no need to use if condition for decoding. Alphanumeric characters consist of that one. Input format. The first column contains space-separated integers n rows and m columns, respectively. The next n lines consist of row of elements of the matrix scripts. Constraints. N is greater than 0, m is less than 100. Note: a 0 score will be awarded for using if condition in your code. Format. Print decoded script, that one. So just need the problem just need us to print the decoded script. Sample output is this one. Explanation: decoded script is this one. Neo replaces the symbol or spaces between two alphanumeric characters with a single space for better readability. So the final decoded script is this. I think that's a fair explanation. Very simple. So let's get into the solution. So here, I think we need to understand that we are going to read column by column, and each column we are taking the characters in each column and combining them or joining them to form one single matrix decoded, just like here. As you can see, this symbol is reading like column wise. Let me use that column wise. So we start with the first column, which gives us this up to this point, and then we go to the second column, which give us from this one up to this, and then we finish with the last column, which give us from this part to the last part. Yes, so that is basically what we need to do. We need to read this matrix column wise, each joining each column with the next column. Then after that, we clean it from there. We remove these symbols that are between the alphanumeric uh, characters. As you can see in the last part, we have like this one, and then the final is this one, whereby the symbols that are in between the alphanumeric characters has been removed and replaced by a single space. So let me move straight away to the solution without wasting any time, because time is very precious for us in this kind of problem. So the first thing to do is to initialize an empty string that will store the decoded message found by reading matrix column by column. So I'm going to call it uh, decoded string, and I'm going to initialize it with an empty string. The next step is, because I want to read column by column, So I'm going to initialize our starting point because we are starting at column 0. Well, as you can see from here, we start from this column, move to the second column, and then to the last column. So our starting point is going to be at index 0. So I'm going to initialize that as start and give it a value of 0. Then I'm going to, because we need to move from the first column to the last column. So we need to know the value of the last column so that we don't uh, encounter index out of range error. You know what I mean? So last will be equals to is going to be the length because we want to know the number of columns this matrix has. So it's going to be matrix of the first row, and we need to know how many columns do this row has, and that's why we need to look at the first row because these rows are all the same. It is an n by m matrix. So if we cannot have the first row having less columns than the second row. So if we use the first row to represent the number of columns the matrix has, then it makes perfect sense. So the second thing I'm going to do is to use a while loop. So what am I going to do with this while loop? The while loop will continue as long as the start is less than the last. So I'm going to say while start is less than last. So what will happen? I'm going to iterate all the rows, taking into account the current column. And what am I going to do to that current column? I'm going to join the current column to the decoded string variable, which has been initialized in line 23. So how is it going to work? I'm going to say for each row in matrix. What do I need to do? For each row in matrix, I want to join. I want to just append each column, each column value to that decoded string. So I'm going to say decoded string plus equal to each row of the start. Yes. So at the end of this for loop, after iterating all the rows, I'm going to increment to the next column and do the same for all the rows up to our last column. Are we together? Yes, makes perfect sense. So I'm going to just increment start by 1. And then at the end of all this, I'm just going to print the decoded string just to see what do we have in that decoded string. Decode, decoded string. So let me just run this code and see what we have. Yes, so let me scroll down. As you can see, we have managed to print the matrix decoded. If you look at this one, they're just the same. So the next step is to clean this decoded string to look like the expected output so that we don't get this wrong answer error here. So how am I going to achieve that? Very simple. We are just going to use a module, an inbuilt module for manipulating strings, which is regular expression. And I'm going to write a simple function to do the cleaning for us. So the function takes a string as an input and returns a cleaned version of that string. I'm going to use resub is used to perform substitution using regular expressions. So let's get into that. So define a function called clean decoded string. And that function takes in an S, which represents the string that we want to clean. And then I'm just going to return array dot sub for substituting. So I want to substitute and then provide a pattern. So array, let me just print that pattern here. Yes. And then pass in the string. And then that's all. So let me explain what these so many things are happening. As you can see, so many things are being written here. Let me explain to you what they all mean. Uh, there is an error there. No, it's just single space. So, okay, so the first one, which is from this point to this point, this one here is a positive look behind assertion that matches any position preceded by an alphanumeric character. Then we have the second part here, which is from this point to this point up to this point. What does that part do? It matches one or more non-alphanumeric characters, including spaces. And then what about the last one? This one? This one is very simple. It it's a positive look ahead assertion that matches any position followed by an alphanumeric character. So this regular expression finds sequences of non-alphanumeric characters that are between two alphanumeric characters and replaces them with a single space, as you can see here. And it returns that cleaned version. So instead of printing this one, let me just cut this one and bring it down here. So many spaces, remove one, and then remove one, enter one. So let's say cleaned string equals to clean decoded string, and then you pass in decoded string, right? And then what do we need to do? Let's print this. Let's print this. Print this cleaned string. Remove that space. And then let's run the code, see what happens. Yes, so congratulations, we have just passed this test. So this is basically what this code does, and as you can see, it's not so much complicated. The explanation was very direct and easy to understand, and so is the solution. Thank you very much, and see you in the next challenge.